So Dark Brandon gave his State of the Union address last night, and we wanted to talk about it with you. Welcome to Azimuth Podcast. I'm Barrett McNabb, and I'm joined with my beautiful wife, Kimberly McNabb.
Thanks, Barrett. Now, I usually don't care, but when you have a president who's constantly giving content for memes and GIFs, you have to tune in, even if it's just to see how long can he speak for. When on a normal day, it seems he can't speak for amount of time that's longer than our 7-year-old's attention span.
That's right.
I mean, the supply of Adderall and cocaine at the White House is not short.
Yeah, I mean, this was really the most disjointed speech ever. He was, again, Dark Brandon. He was angry. He was kind of like that old man, get off my lawn, is kind of the tone that he had. And I don't really think he was trying to bring the country together at all.
No, it was super partisan, and he demonized half the country. And yet he yells, democracy is under attack. Yet his people banned RFK from running as a Democrat. His people tried to get Trump thrown off the ballot every which way to Sunday.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that really caught my eye is I have seen every single State of the Union address ever since I was in college, and which is quite a few of them now. But still, I have never seen a president publicly admonish the Supreme Court justices sitting in front of him. It was, I mean, obviously the Supreme Court, they come, there's only about 4 or 5 members. It wasn't the complete court, but they sat stoically, but you could see a little bit of surprise when President Biden addressed them directly and blamed them for Roe v. Wade. And honestly, it took him a little bit of time to get the words out, but it almost seemed as though he was threatening the Supreme Court for their decision. He finally was able to get a word salad out and talk about how it was going to, be effective at the ballot, and that women were going to vote against them and vote in favor of candidates that were pro Roe v. Wade. But still, it took him a while to get that word salad out, and it looked like he was kind of threatening the Supreme Court. And again, I have never seen a State of the Union where the president publicly admonishes the Supreme Court, and I was really kind of surprised.
Yeah, well, the judicial branch is a separate branch, so,
Sure.
He doesn't have that authority. I'm sure he'll find a way. It's going to happen. But, also, we're not a democracy. We're a constitutional republic.
Right.
And, also, you can't convince me that he cares about democracy when his people, he cares more about illegals than the very people who elected him. And he even went on to say that he's not going to separate immigrant families. Well, you know which families he will separate? Families who don't use their kids' preferred pronouns.
Right. I mean, it was very interesting when he was talking about separating families. A lot of, not every family, but a lot of instances of human trafficking where the children are there and they have their uncle that's escorting them across, and really it's more than likely it's human trafficking, and to say that you're never going to separate a family, obviously it needs to be on a case-by-case basis, which is one of the problems that this administration has as it pertains to the border, is they're treating everybody the same. They're treating everybody with an asylum claim, and then they're releasing them into the United States proper, and they're not doing a good job of vetting these people, and to say you're never going to separate a family, I think that's clearly a mistake.
Absolutely. And, he went on to bounce from topic to topic. And unfortunately, taking responsibility was not on the teleprompter.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at how he ended his speech, he said, "God bless the troops," and tell that to the Army Reserve soldiers from Georgia that died in a drone attack. Tell that to the troops in Afghanistan. And speaking of that, one of the Gold Star fathers, that one of the Marines that died in the bombing in the Afghan was yelling at Biden, and the security told him to stop, and they arrested him. They removed him. He's saying, look, remember my child, remember the Marines that died, and honestly, Biden didn't talk about that at all.
Well, it was like the one time Biden turned down the opportunity to say, my son served in Iraq and he died too.
Right. I
He
mean,
uses that at every possible turn.
so it was interesting. I mean, he is again, the speech was Dark Brandon at its best. He kept referencing my predecessor. My predecessor obviously didn't say Trump by name, but you can who the predecessor is, and I think he treated this more as a campaign speech than it was a State of the Union. I mean, you had Kamala Harris jump up and down, doing thigh exercises.
Yeah, I'm sure her legs are sore today from all that jumping up and down. Very much unlike Speaker Mike Johnson, who is very stoic. Good job for him, because I would have been more like Marjorie Taylor Greene, which I am from Georgia.
Well, I mean, even after the speech, Speaker Johnson, he said, look, Biden missed his cue. He's supposed to wait for the Speaker of the House to introduce the president, and Biden just Dark Brandon just got into the zone right away. So he never actually got to do the cue of, ladies and gentlemen, let me introduce the President of the United States. That just didn't happen.
Well, I mean, it was probably a relief for Speaker Mike Johnson, because he didn't have to introduce Dark Brandon.
Right, exactly. Now, what are some of the other things that he mentioned in his speech?
Oh, well, there were a lot of topics, but one that got me really bothered was he is going to be responsible for even more American lives. Biden said that he is planning for the U.S. military to build a port for the distribution of aid on the Gaza Strip, but the plan would not put boots on the ground.
Yeah, I think that's a little disingenuous.
Absolutely, who's going to build it?
Maybe just using semantics by saying that American troops, whether they're Seabees or U.S. Army combat engineers, whether they're not going to actually have sand on the bottom of their boots because they're not going to be on the ground, but they're definitely going to be at the tactical level of operations building this port.
Yeah, and he's saying this to feed those people that are upset, claiming Israel's not distributing aid to the Gazans. That is not true. Hundreds of trucks go in every day, and they get attacked by hundreds of Gazans, and they'll clip videos of Israeli soldiers defending the trucks from the mass hordes. It's supposed to be distributed evenly, not just have Hamas attack and steal all the aid. So it's feeding into this agenda. And also, even if they remain offshore, guess what Hamas is capable of doing, as Israel well knows? Sending bombs.
Right.
So, I mean, come on. They're going to get bombed. Someone's going to die. And, another thing. Biden even said that Hamas has a duty to protect its citizens. Oh, my God. Hamas cares about its citizens like BLM cares about black people. Okay, no. Their charter says that their goal is to kill Jews, that the Jews are little Satan, America is big Satan. And even if you don't care about Jews as an American, you got to care about this. You got to believe people when they say they're going to do something, like Putin's going to take the Balkans next. Hamas wants to kill America, and if they had the technology to do it, they would.
Absolutely. I mean, it's no stretch that if the Houthis are receiving guided missiles and things like that from Iran in order to close off the Red Sea through terror and hitting ships. Can you imagine what the technology is that could be used to attack U.S. warships that are either acting as a roll-low, roll-on, roll-off ship to bring cargo, or whether it's the bridging equipment that could possibly be used by the U.S. Army combat engineers to create a beachhead that you could load cargo on. I mean, right now we're doing, along with the Jordanians, is airdrops, but those are super expensive, and they are using a lot of fuel to only get a few pallets. And unfortunately, parachutes don't always work. And while U.S. Army paratroopers have reserve chutes, the pallets don't. And there's already been a couple of instances of complete malfunctions on pallets that have, rolled off the back of the aircraft, and the chute doesn't open. And there's been a number of people that have been killed by falling pallets, hitting buildings and things like that. Mm-hmm. And, so if you are looking at a controlled distribution, definitely airdrop's not the way to go. They just get, ransacked immediately.
Yeah, you don't know who's going to snatch it up. But, also, who's going to build the port? I say we send the Mahasols, those who were blocking Biden from the Capitol to give the speech, the people screaming in the streets from the river to the sea, send them on a one-way ticket to Gaza to build this port, and send the Hamas squad to lead them in building the port.
Yeah, I mean that's a great point. I mean, obviously the State of the Union was delayed because Biden was late due to a lot of the protests and everything. But still, if they want to do something rather than just protesting, if they want to take action, you could volunteer and go build this port over there.
Yeah, and I'm sure they didn't get charged, unlike that Gold Star father.
Right, exactly. Now, there was, as always, a rebuttal that was given by the Republicans, and it was Senator Katie Britt from Alabama. She was elected to the U.S. Senate in the midterm elections in 2022, and she is an up-and-coming individual for the Republican Party, and she had a lot of neat things to say. I was very, very pleased. She, wasn't in a studio. She was at her kitchen table, and really, she was representing moms. Moms and dads sitting at the family table, talking about the good, the bad, and even the ugly. And one of the things that she focused on was the border and how President Biden and his administration have just absolutely failed on this. She talked about security. She talked about China. She hit some really great talking points, and she even got in some Southern humor. She said, God bless your heart, and
bless your heart.
Bless your heart, and if you're from the South, that's not a good thing.
You're effing stupid, and no one can help you. That's what that means.
Right, and so I thought that was kind of a nice Southern dig to get at him. But still, she had a lot of great points, and she was not. She was assertive without being combative, and I think apparently she might be on a short list to be President Trump's VP. One of the things that I've always said that what Trump needs to do is there's a capability gap in his or demographic gap for suburban moms, and that's a demographic that he lost in his last election. And so I've always said that having a suburban mom with school-age kids is probably would be a good pick for him in order to shore up that demographic, which I do see as a weakness for him. And obviously she's an up-and-comer. She's only been in politics for 2 years, but still she was a force last night.
Yep. And a thing that she said that I've tried to highlight in some of our episodes, but she did a much better job of highlighting it, is, he's been in politics longer than I've been alive. Right. And, when was the last time he filled up his own gas tank? When was the last time he pushed his own shopping cart? And I think the news kind of let this, get buried, but there was it was a couple of months ago. He was going to local, small businesses. He went to a bike shop. He went to a place that sold smoothies, and one little teeny, social media post or news article, a little blip out there said Biden was shocked that a smoothie was $6. Like, yeah, it's $6.
That's exactly how much it costs. That's what your
Welcome
inflation has done.
To a very small drop of what everyday people deal with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more.
It's hard for you to acknowledge.
Yeah, when you live in a plastic wrap bubble, it's hard to understand what the real people are experiencing.
Yeah, I mean, he has people to do that for him, the little people.
Right. Now, it was kind of interesting after the speech, a lot of Democrat leaders kind of lambasted him for using the word illegal. And
Newcomer!
Yeah, newcomer. And so he missed the boat on missed the messaging, and even Nancy Pelosi's, he shouldn't have said that, but let's focus on something else. It's true. I mean, they are illegal immigrants. If they have crossed the border without going through a normal port of entry, and they're sneaking across, that is an illegal immigrant.
Yep.
It just is what it is. So anyway, we enjoyed the State of the Union speech. Again, I always watch it. I have a cocktail and I'll sit there and watch it. But I tell you, it was really interesting just how partisan it was. I mean, Dark Brandon came out in full force, and again, it was almost like the old man, "Get off my lawn," was basically the theme of the evening that night. And we just wanted to give you our thoughts on it. And thank you for watching Azimuth Podcast.